Yes, Vana isn't it?
Okay. For those of you who are not in ENV 101, welcome to the American University of Armenia. Those of you who are in ENV 101, we have a surprise for you. We have a guest speaker, Matt Bogosian. He is an American Armenian, born in the US. He spent a lot of his time as an attorney, environmental law, and he's also served under the Obama administration as senior policy advisor to the Environmental Protection Agency, which is the Ministry of Nature Protection of the US. He's done some really interesting work in enforcement of environmental regulations, but also more recently, he's taken an interest in how you go around not only enforcing laws, but also motivating companies and entrepreneurs to come up with solutions that are environmentally and socially beneficial while making money. And I think this is a new model that a lot of companies are thinking about. So the whole idea is that making money and being environmentally beneficial or environmentally responsible are not mutually exclusive. There are business models out there that you can do both. You can do both. Matt is now the chief strategy officer of a company that advises companies who have sustainability, that advises companies on how to do this. So he was in town, and we thought we should take advantage of him while he's here to enlighten us on his kind of experience and what he's doing, and also ask us questions and learn. He wants to learn more about Armenia, so you can help him learn more about Armenia at the same time. He doesn't have a PowerPoint presentation, so he's going to ask you questions. You got to be ready to answer questions. Okay? Anything else I should say?
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, can you hear me? Yes? Awesome. Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Bogosian, and I'm just really psyched to be here. This is the first time I've been to Armenia, and I have a lot of people to thank. Alan Armenian, appreciate your hospitality and the Akopian Center inviting me as kind of a bonus. Wasn't expecting to be speaking on this trip at the outset. I've been involved with the Armenian Tree Project, and I want to also thank the Armenian Tree Project, the Deputy Director, Jason Sohigian, wave in the back, Jason. Fantastic operation. So I've been a little bit involved in the Armenian Tree Project from the United States, and privileged to be a part of that. They had the 20th anniversary celebration in Los Angeles, so I got to be a part of that ceremony, which is a real treat. So I want to thank both you, Alan and Jason, for being involved in bringing me together with you guys to talk about some important issues in the world. And so we had these calls about, okay, what would be useful to the students and what would be useful to the community, what's happening in Yerevan. I've never been here before, and I want to add value from my experience and just share what I've learned throughout much of my career. And so I'm going to talk about two things. But before I get into that, I want to just say how inspiring it is actually for me. I'm from the United States, a pretty young country. Here, it's the 2,797th year anniversary of the city of Yerevan, and wow, that is a fantastic history. So, let's see. How old is the Earth? Guess. It's okay, you can guess. Go for it. That's okay. Guessing is okay. Who has an idea? How old is it? Yes, sir. Good guess, but no. See, that's okay, though. You get props for going for it, yeah. 4.2 billion years old. So that's like 4,200 million years. That's a long time, right? And then how about our species, Homo sapiens? How old is our species? Yes, sir. Yeah, there's a lot of science, 100,000 to 300,000 evolved. And how about recorded history? How old is recorded history? Any guesses? 10,000? A little less? Yeah, 5 to 10,000 years. And your city is almost 3,000 years old. That is awesome. You guys are at kind of the foundation of civilization. And that, to me, is really inspiring, being from such a new country. So the two things I want to talk about. Hey, Alan, can I write on the board? Is that cool? Thank you. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the first part of my career, which is preventing the worst. So in the United States, I guess this is a little bit, I got to tell a little bit of my story. So my grandparents were not too dissimilar. They escaped the genocide from Aintab in Western Armenia. And they came to Ellis Island in the United States, and my family ended up settling in California, and that's where I grew up. And in California, during the part that I grew up, we were involved in this Cold War, and trying to figure out how do you add value in the world. There was a lot of Americans that said, I'm going to join the Cold War. And so, through my experience, I participated in that. I joined the military. I was in the United States Navy, and I specialized in the law. And understood from my upbringing and being in the Navy how important the rule of law is. So I became a lawyer, and the rule of law is preventing the worst. So when you think of the law and preventing the worst, many people think of crimes. So like rape, robbery, murder. And so we set laws that that's not okay. So we want to prevent the worst. So that's what I started to specialize in. I became a prosecutor. Does anybody know what a prosecutor is? Yes? That's an easy one. Go ahead. What is it? Yeah, in English. That's okay. Good guess. Go for it. Right, the person that gets in trouble. So somebody shoots somebody else, and somebody has to bring the evidence to the court to say that they've done a bad thing. So I spent much of my career doing that, preventing the worst. So we want to deter, I'm not sure if you know the word deter, but we want to prevent people from killing other people, right? So we punish them. We slap them on the hand, we put them in jail so they don't kill anybody else. And we also do that so that other people see that that's a bad thing. The word for that in English is to deter. You deter that misconduct. That's preventing the worst. So I did that in California for many years. That was my job, to be a public prosecutor. My job was to serve the people of the state of California and make sure that we took people that hurt other people and put them in jail and sent a message to everyone else that that's not okay. So that was really important work. I learned that in the military, and I kept doing it even when I left the military. Then I started to specialize in another area that's important, because it's not just we want to prevent crimes from happening. We want to prevent murders. We want to prevent raping. We want to prevent robbery. All of these crimes, domestic violence, that is super important. But there are other important things that we want to prevent. And one of those things is environmental harm. Because as we've learned over time, that as we pollute, that can hurt our health. That can pollute our water that we drink, the air that we breathe, the land that we work and grow food in. And so in the United States, and especially in California, the people passed many laws that said you also can't pollute, or else there'll be a punishment to deter other people. So that's what I started specializing in. And so all of this is really important. I learned, oh gosh, okay, we can prevent by punishing, and I did that for many, many years. Until I joined somebody that you might have heard of before. Has anyone heard of Arnold Schwarzenegger? You have, you're smiling. Yeah? Okay. You guys like Schwarzenegger movies? Yes? Yeah, what's your favorite? Secret Agent? I'm not... Well, his wife doesn't know about many things. Yeah, Total Recall. Yeah, there's a lot of movies. Say what? Mrs. Doubtfire? I don't think he was in that one. Arnold Schwarzenegger? Yeah, was he? Okay. Anyway, he became governor of California, if you can believe it. And so he appointed me to work in the California state government at the Environmental Protection Agency. Because why? Because I have been preventing the worst. Not on the crimes, like I talked about, rape, robbery, murder. I did that earlier. But around environmental laws. How do you prevent the worst? So I was doing that for the whole state of California. When the people of California started to learn about this thing called global warming and climate change. So the people in California passed a law and said, we got to do something about it. And Governor Schwarzenegger, he's not a scientist, but he knows what the people wanted, and he said, let's pass a law that says we're going to do something about global warming. So then I got on the team, and then it was my job to figure out what to do. And there's a lot of people smarter than I was, but I started to learn about how we tackle big problems. And that's when I started to think, maybe preventing the worst is not enough. So this was a lot to understand. And I'm a slow learner. So over time, I had to learn from the scientists. How do we tackle such a big worldwide problem like global warming? And this applies to all problems. Poverty, income inequality, fill in the blank, disease. What we have to do is understand the complex world around us. So I learned from these scientists very slowly. We can't write laws top down to prevent everything bad from happening. We can't make progress in the world by just hoping our government comes in and saves us. Does that happen here in Armenia? No, and never. That's what I heard. Well, it doesn't happen in the United States either. We need to help our leaders at the top do as much as they can top down. But the real power is bottom up. And when tackling such a big problem like global warming from just one state, is that crazy? How would we tackle that? So we had to understand a way, a pathway to figure out all of that complexity. And so we started on that journey. And has anyone heard of the word sustainability? You have? Okay. Okay, what does it mean to you? Yes, Excellent. She said to sustain a better world or a better environment. Any other ideas? Yes. She said somehow linked with stability. Absolutely. These are all correct in one way. Yeah. Any other ideas? So what the scientists have said over time, and this is over the last 20, 30 years, is that sustainability has three parts to it. This is my shortcut for sustainability. One is economic, another is social, and another one is environmental. And so what we learned in California is that if we're going to tackle global warming, we've got to have a theory. And the theory is sustainability. This is the whole big picture about how we're going to tackle climate change. And so let me give you an example. So California is just one state. Let me do a quick overview of climate change. So you all understand the globe is warming because there's an atmospheric blanket around the whole world. It's like a blanket, and it's of air, and it's getting thicker and thicker. And what happens when you put more blankets on? It gets warmer, right? So it's getting warmer. We're adding that by doing a lot of things here on Earth, like by burning coal and other fossil fuels and a lot of other things that it wasn't anybody's fault. We didn't know that we were causing it, but now we're learning that we've caused it. And so the globe is getting warmer. And we all have a responsibility to understand that and to take action on it. And this goes for my whole talk. I'm here because I think every one of us, me and you sitting in your seats, have a responsibility to understand sustainability, understand global warming, and what is your role in it. So this is such a big problem. You think, how could this relate to me? It's so big. This is how it relates. The globe is warming, and we are in the midst of climate change. And right now, every one of us are adding additional greenhouse gases into that atmospheric blanket. And the scientists have figured out how much, on average, every person in the world is adding to that atmospheric blanket. So right now, per person, does anybody have a guess as to how many people are in the world? 7 billion. Woo! Nice work. Alan, I don't know where he is. He's done a good job on that one. 7 billion people in the world. And we're going to 9 or 10 billion in the next few years. Right now, on average, for each one of us, on the planet, we're adding an additional 4 tons of greenhouse gases into the blanket every year that we're adding. And the world is getting warmer. So our scientists have unlocked sustainability and looked at this big complex puzzle and said, what do we need to do to reduce the risk of global warming? So they figured out by the year 2050, on average, we have to go from 4 tons a year, you, me, all of you, Jason back there, to 1 ton. So that's a big step. Now, does anybody know what the average per person per year greenhouse gas emissions is for Armenian citizens? 2.15, good guess. That's very close. As I understand from a World Bank report, it's 1.7. So you guys are just above where we need to get to. So in many ways, Armenia is an example of a low greenhouse gas emitting per person per year universe. Does anybody have a guess as to the Western nations of Europe and the United States all thrown together? 2.8. Good guess, but no, higher. 5? Higher.
8.
6? Higher. Higher. 10. 10 tons. So the average citizen in Western Europe and America, all rolled in together, is 10 tons every year of additional greenhouse gases warming the planet. Well, that's far away from 1, isn't it? A long way to go. Guess for the United States. What's that? 25, good guess, good guess. It's 17. 17 additional tons of greenhouse gas per every American. That's over 300 million Americans. Guess what Mr. Bogosian's is? 1? Good guess. I wish it were. 5? 3, 5? 24. And you asked an excellent question. He asked the question, do I have a car? So how do you figure this out? How do I know all these numbers? Counting, excellent. We're talking math and science, right? That is unwrapping sustainability. It's studying, it's looking at what's there, see how it applies to you. You all need to understand this. You all need to act on it. We all do. We're all in this together. So you can go online and find out what your own greenhouse gas emissions are per person per year. You see where you are. See how you connect to the problem of global warming, because we're going to need everybody to be a part of the solutions. So I have a lot of work to do. Does anybody have a guess about why my number is so high? Traveling a lot. Excellent. That's right. So airplanes are particularly bad. They emit a lot of greenhouse gases. But there's things I do to make it not so bad. And that's why I'm helping the Armenian Tree Project. What does that have to do? God, this is complex. Oh, connect the dots. Why, if I have a number of 24 tons of greenhouse gases per me every year, I'm putting up into the atmospheric blanket, why should I give a damn about the Armenian Tree Project? Because I understand the seriousness is very nice, but yeah, but what's the mathematical, scientific connection between trees and greenhouse gases?
The trees absorb it.
Trees absorb carbon dioxide. And so one way is you can buy offsets. So this is an example of a problem that needs a solution that can't be top down by the government. Preventing the worst, those are government solutions, right? Rape, robbery, murder, you get slapped on your hand, you go to jail. We need new solutions that go for the best. And that's what I'm going to call this next category. Go for the best. So, like in America, we can't wait for our leaders to tell us what to do or prevent all of this greenhouse gases from going in the atmosphere. We can't wait around for that. We want to do the best to have our government tell everybody to prevent the worst, but we have to go for the best. So who's going to go for the best? People? Excellent. Just average people? All of us in this room, everywhere. We've got to figure out ways to go for the best. Now, you might be sitting there saying, hey, what can I do to go for the best? How can I do that from Armenia? How can I do that from my little town in California? Well, what's happened is, well, where do you act in the world? You act through organizations, right? You're either a part of a company or you're a part of an academic community, a university like Allen's, a part of a university, or maybe you're a part of a charity. So those are the three forms of organization in the world. Okay, you have, right now, you have private for-profit companies. You guys know what that is, right? And you have B, you have government, and you have C, you have charity. So, private companies make money, and they give the government some of that money in taxes, and they also do things in charity. These are organizations. We all belong to them. We all participate in them. But something is happening right now in the world in the last 20 years in going for the best. We want our government to prevent the worst. That's always going to be important. We always have to do this. Yes, that keeps going. But we have to also do this. We need to go for the best. And right now, these three, they call them sectors. Have anybody heard that word, sectors? Through these three sectors in the world, people bottom up are saying that's not enough. I want to help the world get better. I want the world to become more sustainable. We're understanding the economic, social, and environmental consequences of our actions. It's complex. I want it to get better. But the government isn't doing enough. It's important to prevent the worst. We want to go for the best. So I'm looking at the tools. Do I go to work for a company? Who wants to work for a company here? Who wants to work for the government here? Who wants to work for a charity? Who wants to work at all? Okay, right now, the playing field is pretty much those three. But things are changing. In the last 20 years, there is a fourth group of people, citizens, that have decided, I want something more. And so they have created new companies, but the new companies are not committed. What profit is what? Making money, right? That's over here on economic. This is money. And so what do most private companies do? They make money, right? That's their purpose. And how do you know that that's their purpose? Guess. It's okay to guess. How about you? Yes. They sell something and they make money. That's right. So scoreboard, right? But every company, don't they have to apply for a license to the government? If it's the same in Armenia, same in the United States. And in that license, it says, my job is to make money. So what's happened is people in different countries and states and provinces around the world are saying, I want my license that says how I'm going to operate as a company to say not only that I want to make money, not only that I want to make money, but my license says I also want to help social things. I want to help people that have jobs and better health. I also want to help the environment so we don't have so much pollution. So companies are starting to demand this. I want a special license so that I can say to my neighbors and the world, you buy my product, because I still got to make money, right? You buy my product, but when you buy my product, I'm also helping to deliver some kind of other benefit to the environment or to my neighbors. Good question, yes. Excellent. She said, isn't that the same as corporate social responsibility? That is a very good point. There is something called corporate social responsibility. I'm going to pivot over here. Is that all right, Alan? Yeah, okay. So there's an evolution in business licenses. And they get the license for profit only. And so businesses have always done charity. And that has led to this thing called corporate social responsibility. And that's where companies are saying, hey, it's more than just giving away money to the sick or the homeless. It's part of my job as a company to do other things. It's not just whenever I feel like it. It's part of my job. Well, this is evolving, changing too. Anybody heard of Michael Porter from Harvard?
Yes.
Yeah, he's written on this thing called creating shared value. Saying, not only do we have a responsibility, but we're creating shared value for our company. We're making money by also advancing some social or environmental aim at the same time. Now there's a new emerging movement. So we've gone from charity to corporate social responsibility to creating shared value. Now there's a fourth. And that is in the area of social enterprise. Some are calling this a fourth sector. And states like California, other American states, and Great Britain are creating business licenses that have companies that have built into their license that they're going to do all three of those things down there. That they're going to make money, economic, and they are going to advance some social or environmental goal. That is the job of their company. So now, there is a fourth thing. Private for-profit, government, charity, and they call the fourth sector companies for benefit. Sometimes they call it social enterprise. So that you can benefit not only yourself economically with money, you get money, you gotta keep the lights on, you gotta pay your employees, but you're also going to advance some measurable social and environmental element. Because these are the three pillars which science has told us that underpin how we make a big difference in the world going forward. Sustainability. It's complex. We are having to work very hard, all of us. That's why you have a responsibility to learn this and start to take some action. And the big problem, one big problem, is global warming. Well, right now, I hope tomorrow you go online and you find out what your carbon footprint is. Are you the same average of your fellow Armenians? 1.7? Are you higher? Are you lower? Why? Somebody asked the question, why? Good question. Keep asking that question. Because we're going to need a lot of teamwork to make a difference in the world. And we don't have to wait. Even as important it is to prevent the worst, the government is the top-down deciders on what gets punished, right? There's only one government in every country or every province or every state. That's always going to be important. I worked that for many years. In the environmental area, it's very important. You have a responsibility to try to affect your government to prevent the worst. If it's the environment, if it's crime, if it's whatever. Yes, yes, yes. But you also need to go for the best. And private actors, bottom up, can just decide to do it. Social enterprise. I can make money, but I can also advance some kind of social or environmental aim. There are lots of companies now. Has anybody heard of the company called Etsy?
Yeah.
They just went public in the United States, and it's a platform for selling products. Well, they are one of these companies that said, you know what? We're going to make money. They're making tons of money. Tons of money. These guys are massive. But we're not just going to give it away in charity. We're not just helping other people with social responsibility, corporate social responsibility. We're not even sharing value. We have decided to put it in our license as a company to be a part of this fourth sector. They call it a B Corp. That's a special license that says that they are there to make money, but also advance some kind of social or environmental aim. So that's the evolution that we're on. And it's this second area I want to make sure that you guys know about that's happening in the world. So when I worked in the Obama administration, just two months ago, I left there. We're working very, very hard to do both of these things because they're both very important. In the global warming example, we passed a law in the United States that says our power plants have to reduce their emissions, adding to the atmospheric blanket. So that's really important, but we also realize it's not enough. So we need to inspire businesses to do more, and doing more in this area is going to be very important in all of these areas. So, yes, sir.
You talked about the product company and service, but you don't say that introducing companies as can become another problem, which comes from producing things which can emit carbon dioxide and things. Today is higher than the forces which try to emit less. I mean, why don't you talk about that too?
I'm sorry, try it again because I didn't understand. It's my fault. Yeah.
I would say that production business dominates in markets. I mean, production is higher than the force which tries to reduce the
Yes,
problem.
I think I understand. Yeah.
And why don't you want to say that we need more forces, more efforts to reduce this?
So what I think you're getting at is we need to figure out smarter ways to make things in the world that don't require as much, in the example of global warming, as much carbon. It doesn't take as much energy. Or we could use cleaner energy, solar or wind. All of this is a challenge to our own innovation. If we keep doing things the same, we're going to have problems over and over again. So the trick is, how do we figure out ways to do new things in a way that is less destructive? Yes? Yeah. Yes, the question is about private businesses. Do they have to do corporate social responsibility or is it voluntary? Is that right? Yeah, it's a good question. So it's all voluntary. All of this is voluntary. Okay, the only thing is required is preventing the worst. This is the government saying you must do X. Those are like laws and regulations, and those are important. That's always going to be important. but we're not going to solve a lot of world problems by sticking to just that. We need to do more. And citizens can do more by being involved in this second area, by going for the best, in engaging with companies that are making money in the real world, but then also advance some kind of social and environmental outcome. Yes, ma'am? It's one way. I didn't say better or worse. We need both, and we need both of them to be done very well. Right, so she said, when people do crime, you punish them because you don't know the other way. That's why I'm here, to introduce the other way. Now, here in Armenia, you have an example of another way that's already happened. Tim, you want to introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do?
Very quickly, my name is Tim Strait. I am the Honorary Consul of Norway and Finland in Armenia. I've lived here for 15 years. I've been doing that fourth sector in Armenia for the last 5 or 6 years. Nice to come and get a confirmation of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. We try to create jobs in the regions of Armenia through a foundation that is registered as a non-profit. That's one little thing that would be interesting to discuss. Non-profit, create jobs for women in the regions of Armenia, and that's our only goal, is to make and export products across the world that create sustainable jobs in the regions of Armenia. That's the only reason we exist.
And you do it through commerce, by selling things, right?
Through business.
This is a business angle, yeah.
We had a big German customer come to us and say, we need 150,000 crocheted egg warmers. And we're working on it. We're working on getting the price point. We're working on getting Armenia competitive with China on handmade products. Now, who would thought that Armenia could compete with China? Well, we can. So what I'm saying is Armenia is full of opportunities, as well as some problems, but the opportunities are dominant, and all we have to do is organize it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that example. Any questions for Tim or this idea? So I want to come back to your idea, because it's not an either or. And in the United States, there's a lot of people that think it's an either or. Either you're for preventing the worst, or you're for going for the best. We have to have both. We have to have a minimum standard, right? That you can't, pollute more than this amount, or else you'll be punished. That's a requirement. That's preventing the worst. But in the case of global warming or health from pollution, that's not enough. We need to do other things to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and other pollution to get where we want to go. And now there's a lot of recognition about this frame. Has anybody heard of just what happened recently at the United Nations around what are our goals as a world? Does anybody know what it's called? No? You haven't heard that? It just happened yes. Yes, the Sustainable Development Goals, they're called. And they're global goals. There's 17 of them. And the world has just decided that those are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable. What are the elements? Now you guys know. Right? They're economic, social, and environmental. That's the frame. And then how do you do it in the world? How do you act in the world? You can go for the best either from a company that just makes money, which is good, that's good. You can act in the government. You can act through charity. Or you can also try some of these more creative organizations that Tim talked about. It's already happening here in Armenia. It's happening wildly in the United States. I can tell you, going around the United States, finding all kinds of companies. They are not okay with this. They're not okay with just the private for-profit. They want to make a difference in the world. Yeah, they want to get a paycheck. Yeah, they want to have their employees get paid well. But that's not enough. We want to make a difference with what we do for our community, for our environment, for our neighbors, and we are trying to figure that all out. Yes, ma'am? Excellent point. Saying being a for benefit, does that make you more competitive? Is it a marketing trick? I love that because up until now, much of it has been a marketing trick. But what's happened, the science has developed around sustainability, and you can, because the science is becoming stronger and stronger, we're starting to understand the real connections between, for example, making money and less greenhouse gas emissions. Used to be people would say, oh yeah, I'm doing green things. And there would be a trick, but no more. Because we can now prove what is being emitted. And we can have third parties come in and certify what really is happening. So no more tricks. We should never accept tricks. In America, we sometimes call tricks in the environment greenwashing. And so that's really important. This is not about marketing tricks. Now, if you do it right, you can market it. And that's good because you can prove it. You can prove that you're really making money, but also doing real social improvement, real environmental improvement. And that's the journey that we're on. These folks that are in social enterprise, doing these for-benefit entities, people like Tim there, they are pioneers. Because in 100 years from now, there are going to be hundreds of thousands of these companies. This is like a revolution that's happening around the world. Just imagine 100 years from now, if most of the companies here in Armenia had the same ethic as Tim's operation, that they were there to make money and making plenty of it, but proving as they go that they are also delivering some kind of social and environmental output. Dave, are you here? Yeah, why don't you stand up and tell these people what you do and how this relates?
Another social entrepreneur.
Hi, I'm Dave Beckett, co-founder of the Green Bean.
Anybody been to the Green Bean? I went there this morning. It's awesome.
So since we opened, we've always had this idea of being social entrepreneurs, social venture. Our biggest motto is the triple bottom line, which is basically these three components. And you know, sometimes you just go into a cafe, if you don't even look at what's being done, you won't tell what we're doing. But everything from the selection of our cups to using no plastic. Most people see our plastic cups and just think that's plastic. That's actually PLA, corn-based plastic. It's compostable, biodegradable. And we've always known, and the girls said, had a great question up front, we've always known that doing that was not only good, but it was also, marketable. And we talked about this earlier today. So that's what we do. And, triple bottom line, or those three aspects have always been a big approach to our business.
Great. So why don't, so the big point is we need to do both. And this is really a call to action for all of us to understand this. It takes a lot to understand it. Believe me, I'm right with you. But it's our responsibility to understand it, and it's our responsibility to act on it wherever we can from wherever we are. So, Alan, I want to stop there and do, whatever questions. Yeah.
So there might be a mass exodus in 6 minutes
Okay,
because 2:20 is when
All right.
the class. Can you give us another company example in the U.S. that's made the B Corp, if you will?
Yeah. Does anybody know Ben and Jerry's ice cream? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there was that a clap back there?
Yeah, these guys are great.
Yeah. So that's a company in Vermont, the state of Vermont, a little teeny state, and they make ice cream, and they've had an ethic of doing all three of these things. And there are hundreds and hundreds, thousands of companies. Some companies don't even know that they're a for-benefit entity in doing it. So other questions? We have a few more minutes. People have been...
By the way, I should send, probably I haven't, I'm just brainstorming, Bosch company, the German company, it is employee owned. Mm-hmm. So there are ways in which you can do benefit, so it's like the workers actually own the company. And there's a number of different ways in which you can integrate this sustainability model into the business model.
Yeah, no, I think that's very right. So no one has all the answers about how this is defined yet right now. In the United States, we say it was like the Wild West, because the American Wild West was crazy. There's not a lot of rules. no one really knows how to do it, right? So for benefits, this third route is very early. These are early days and around the world and experimenting with it. What's exciting is on this International Sustainable Development Goals, because they've decided that is the frame that the world is going to go out on. Those 3 values. That's why you all have to learn it. You have to learn this piece and figure out how, in your world, here in Armenia or wherever you go, how you relate to it in the world. What are you doing economically, socially, and environmentally in the companies that you buy stuff? Do you go to one coffee shop or do you go to the Green Bean? And why? In the place that you work, the organizations, the charities that you belong to, the government that you support, the government that you ask questions, the people that you vote for. All of these come back to you. Questions? Any other questions? Comments? Yes, sir.
You mentioned first that
when you started your talking, you said that you are a lawyer and you try to protect not only people, but also the environment. I would say that I'm really thankful that you're here, and I would like to say that people such you must be more and more, and not only in the US, but in Armenia too. Thank you.
Well, thank you, you guys. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Questions?
So Governor Schwarzenegger, he's no expert in the environment. You know, one time he came in and he said, all this, you got a question? Yeah.
Last time you killed me with a question.
Are you trying to set me up, Alan? Come on. Yes. Okay. So Governor Schwarzenegger said, look, you got all this, green stuff. I want to drive my Hummer. I want to sit in my jacuzzi. I want to smoke my big fat cigars. You guys just got to figure out how do you do it green. It's a challenge to innovation, right? It's an innovation challenge. Yeah.
They are similar in any case.
It's similar in Armenia? Yeah?
The fat, big cigar.
I have a question. Coming back to...
I think you're under that, that's why that is.
Sorry. I want to come back to this question again because
Please.
I think for going to the second stage, you need to be more educated, like in education about environment, because usually, like when people are not educated and they don't know anything about like environmental sustainability, usually government uses the first punishment system, and that's why usually we have problems in Armenia with production that produce metals. Usually they emit so much toxic gases and they have very bad outcomes, and that's why I'm thinking that for go for the best, first of all you need to be educated.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to prevent the worst, you also need to be educated, because that's a governance issue, right? So you need people to vote and demand that their government set those minimum standards that we talked about and to enforce them. This is not an either or, this is an and. We need to do both. And you need education to do both well. Thank you. Yes?
You just answered to my question, but okay, I'll just say it once more. I also think that for both of these, people need to be educated, because in case of punishment, I know from law that punishment should fit the crime.
Yes.
So you cannot like just for some small crime just punish very heavily the person.
No, that's right. That's right. And that's why all the solutions aren't about preventing the worst. Preventing the worst is kind of like a floor. It's a minimum. We want to prevent the worst. But does that get us everywhere we want to go as a world? No, we need to draw behavior up to higher standards than preventing the worst. So that's it. You just echoed my point. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm just curious. You mentioned like 100 years and like future.
Yes.
I'm just really curious what you think about these monsters, these big monsters polluting all the earth. Because all you're describing.
Monsters.
Sorry.
Can you name the monsters?
Well, I don't know, like
China, U.S., or corporations?
corporations, and yeah, and Like,
Yeah, remember,
like both,
U.S.
yeah.
is 17 per person per.
No, I'm more.
Yeah,
I'm
we
more.
got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I have in mind more like corporations, productions, big productions. So what you described is mainly the bottom level, right?
Right. So we need to do.
So go for best. I mean, going for best is the intention of the bottom level. That's what I mean. So
Well,
so your vision. I mean, I'm very curious. What do you think? What is the future of these big monsters? What will happen?
Right. So preventing the worst. This is the top down where the government says this is the minimum standard. We can do way better in this area. And we have to do way better. In the case of global warming, we need to up the standards reduce the amount of greenhouse gases that big companies can emit into the blanket. That's already happening. It's happening in the state of California. It's happening in the United States. We have a clean power plan that the president just rolled out earlier in this year. That's a big prevent the worst, top-down government type thing. We need more of that. But what my point is, we can't wait around for somebody else to make those solutions happen. We need to pressure our government to do better, but we also need to add into the toolbox these other activities. It's not an either or. Do you know what I'm saying? And so the government should be raising the standards for those big monsters. They say, no, it's not okay. The pollution that you're throwing into the air, our people are breathing it. They're getting sick. They can't go to work. We're not being as productive. That's what I did for many years. Enforce those standards. And if people break those minimum standards, we put them in jail or we take away a lot of their money. Take away their liberty or their money. That's what I did in the United States. We need to keep doing that. But even if we do that better, is my point. Even if we do that better, and we must, it's not enough.
A lot of the solutions also, as the so-called monsters, will have to come from entrepreneurs. Anything from carbon storage, carbon sequestration technologies, there's a lot of venture capital, a lot of money going into figuring out solutions. So I think even though they're big producers of energy or manufacturing, and they can't be very quickly responsive, but there's a very undercurrent of innovation that's happening that could feed into that whole world of making them cleaner.
And on to that point, Alan is a good one. So I don't know if anybody's heard the term impact investors. So there are a lot of people that have a lot of money and they say, yeah, I'd like to make more money, right? That's what investors do. I want to make more money, right? Hey, they're checking this thing out. They're saying, you're telling me I can make money and advance some kind of social or environmental thing at the same time, and I can sleep at night? How awesome is that? So they are out there with a supply of money. And what are they looking for?
Ideas.
They're looking for ideas. They're looking for enterprises that will absorb that money, that take that money and give them some of their money back, but also give them provable social and environmental outcomes. That's what these folks are doing. That's what is evolving over here. These are new companies that will absorb that capital, take that investment capital, and provide returns that are not only money, but also social or environmental. So yeah, it's a good point.
That was a question.
Yes, sir.
As far as I understood, the government is trying to do the first one to prevent the worst with regard to the big companies, to the corporations. Why doesn't it encourage the big corporations to go for the best? Or does it?
Yeah, so I think most big corporations do this big time. They do charity. And charity is important. I mean, charity is good. But I think we've done these three for so long, we know that it's not going to be enough. And that's why people have created this fourth sector, these new social enterprises. Say, look, all the three are good. We're not saying the others are bad. For-profit companies are fine and they give to charity and that's all good. But it's not enough. And we need something else to add to the mix. Yeah.
One question.
Yeah. Say again, please.
The taxation of the fourth sector.
Oh.
There's no good incentives to.
Yeah. So just the way it's working out right now, for benefit companies, they get taxed, just the same as a private company. They have to pay their fair share. You know, there might be over time some incentives, you know, for companies to form that way, because what's cool about these entities, they're actually, if they have success in the world, they are reducing the amount of work the government and charity need to do, right? If these companies, these social enterprises, succeed in the world, that means there's less social and environmental problems for the charities to fix or government to fix.
Let me just, I'll go to Tim for a sec, but let me just respond to that bigger question. I think you may have actually more to say about it. Governments do work with big companies to change their behavior. And I think there's some really innovative ways in which we've had success stories, not in the case of carbon markets, but in the case of sulfur dioxide emission markets. We've had government actually encouraging companies to change their behavior using market mechanisms. And I think there is experimentation now in California, or not experimentation, work in California that encourages actually companies to participate in that process. Maybe you can say a couple of words about that.
Right. So have you guys ever heard of the thing called acid rain? So that was happening in the United States a lot of years ago, and it was from these emissions in these power plants. And so instead of the government saying, you know, you can't emit anymore, they came up with this market idea to incentivize a reduction of those toxics that get emitted. And so we're trying something in California right now. It's become law. It's called the Global Warming Solutions Act. And what we've done is we have mapped all of the greenhouse gas emissions in California, the big monsters and everyone else, saying you are emitting X amount. And we're saying, we're not telling you that you have, each factory, each monster and everyone else, that you have to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions by X amount. We're going to let you decide. We're going to give you a permit for the amount that you're emitting. Just to know, though, in a few years, we're going to reduce the overall amount that all of us are emitting. And so what that does is create a market where people can trade these permits to emit. And so it's not dictating from top down what ought to happen in each company, but it's giving them an incentive to come up with innovative ways to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. And that may be where we're headed internationally too. Yeah. Please, Tim.
Okay, very quickly, you mentioned impact investment.
Yes.
Just to bring this home to Armenia, and that Armenia is part of the larger world. I know an Armenian who lived in London, who is an impact investor. She worked towards India, doing impact investments for years and years in India. I kept bugging her, why aren't you doing it in Armenia? Why aren't you doing it in Armenia? She's now been in Armenia several times. She's involved in the Impact Hub. She's looking for good projects to do in Armenia. Her name is Audrey Selian. She's a great person, so it's coming to Armenia. So we're part of this.
Fantastic. I mean, that's an opportunity for all of you to learn more about it, right? Back to your responsibility, to understand this and act on it in some way. And there's a lot of opportunities for them. Yeah.
There's a question right here.
Yeah. Well, you said everything you mentioned. Probably that's about US and Western Europe. And what about developing countries? Probably, I mean, you know, their main goal is to become stronger, and I think that environment is the last thing that they are thinking about. So maybe I am not right. I'd like to know your opinion about developing countries. Thanks.
Yeah, so I think, you know, every country's got to figure out what are their best advantages, you know, and draw on them. I mean, Tim's working, you know, with people that have skills in making, what do you call it, Tim? Crochet, right? Somebody told me, we went to a winery yesterday, which was great. That was a lot of fun. But somebody told me on the trip that 300 days out of the year, you all get sun. Right? You have sunny days, 300 days out of the year. Why is that so special? Why do you think? Guess. Solar energy. Right? Okay? That's a resource. There's an opportunity. Looking for what you all can do best and being creative and innovative is the point. But understanding the big frame and trying to act on them in the world is the point of my talk. And yeah, please.
Did you change anything any habit or action during your life that had bad impact in our environment?
Oh gosh, she said, did I change any of my personal behavior? Because she's going like, if your number's 24, pal, you're a loser. Yeah, so I appreciate the point. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I stopped using my car. I moved to be closer to where I worked, so I didn't have to travel in a car as much. I was talking with somebody earlier today at the Green Bean actually about I drink a lot of coffee, and in the United States, you get these to-go cups. So I realized that I was throwing all this waste into the garbage. So I got one of those carry I don't know, just a to-go mug they call it or whatever. So that's something that I've done that's improved things. And, yeah.
You've stopped eating meat?
Oh yeah, thank you. So for the last 4 years, I've been experimenting by not eating meat. Why is that? It's because the overwhelming science, which you will learn, because I challenged you here today to understand and act on it, is you will learn that producing beef is one of the big problems that's adding to the big thickening of the atmospheric blanket. So the world is going from 7 billion to 9 or 10 billion. And the estimate is 3 billion new people going into the middle class. And what do you think they're going to want to eat? Hamburgers.
Tim is on roll.
On the carbon footprint issue, if anybody eats chicken in Armenia, you are eating chicken that is produced in Brazil. It's ridiculous. Don't eat chicken. It's a horrible carbon footprint.
So it's you got to be positive in this zone, because it's a little scary when you learn all this stuff, right? Just know that if you do, you'll be stronger for it. And there's a lot of different avenues to make a difference in the world.
Okay, guys. Any other questions, comments? You want to leave?
Yeah.
Ciao.
Thank you.
You can come up and ask questions from Matt if you so desire.